Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? It is such a lovely day here in the Pacific Northwest. We finally have something that resembles summertime weather. As a matter of fact, when I woke up this morning, this is what I saw. And while it's not particularly warm outside, we at least have some sunshine. So I'm pretty excited about that. Summertime is in full effect for most of you, and for us in the Pacific Northwest, we have a saying here that says that summer occurs after the 4th of July, which in the U.S. is a national holiday, and for some reason that almost always holds true. So I'm not sure what's going on up here, but it's been like that for the 20 some odd years, oh my God, almost 25 years that I've lived here. All right, so today's lesson is actually something that I feel like it gets a little bit of just kind of like the redheaded stepchild treatment, and that is Keynote. Now, Keynote is something that ships with your Macintosh. It is something that is super easy to use, but a lot of people think of it as a presentation tool, and rightly so. I mean, that's the way it's always been positioned, is as a presentation tool. I mean, this is something that purportedly Steve Jobs used to do his presentations and his one more thing that he had in his keynotes that we all look forward to. And it is really a cool tool. Is it as full featured as something like PowerPoint? I would say that there could be the case that it's not seeing the level of development that PowerPoint has, but it's still an incredibly useful tool. And for the purposes of what we're doing today, which is these lower thirds here, right? This is something that I created inside of PowerPoint. And that is just based on the feature sets that are available inside of PowerPoint. Inside of Keynote. If I said PowerPoint before, I meant it as Keynote. But if the features inside of Keynote allow you to do that kind of stuff, not only creating graphics, but also for animating them. Now, a lot of people will say that something like, well, myself included, Ecamm is an amazing content creation and live streaming tool. It's not primarily content creation, and it's not primarily live streaming. There's some things in live streaming that a lot of people would hope for, and then there's quite a bit that for somebody like me who has an animation background would love to see inside the tool. But those features don't exist. There's just enough in there to do some really good stuff. Granted, I feel like there are times where it could be done more easily. So when I look at Keynote as an alternative to content creation, the only reason I'm looking to it is because it has those animation tools in it. And neither Photoshop, nor Canva, nor Illustrator, or any of the Affinity apps have the level of quick animation capabilities that you would need for something like a dynamic lower third inside of Ecamm. So I thought, this is a great tool. It ships with your Mac. It's free. And, with all the hubbub and kerfuffle about AI and what is Adobe doing with your images and, the subscription models and all that stuff, when you have something that is truly, well, I have the saying that I always teach my kids, nothing is ever free, right? You're still buying the Mac, but Keynote as it is a tool that you don't have to pay extra for. It comes with your Macintosh. So why not use it before you go off and spend, hundreds of dollars on professional level tools? Keep in mind that Keynote is very much a professional level tool and can do some incredible stuff. So we're going to get into that today. And if you have any questions during this particular presentation, just queue them up. I'll pull up the comments at the end. I'm not ignoring you, but I like to go through everything first, and then I'll come back if there are any questions about Keynote or what I did. So let me hop in to Keynote here. All right, so here it is. And I've just fired it up. I created a new presentation. And honestly, because I'm creating graphics that will be utilized inside of Ecamm, I don't need any of the default template things or anything that comes around with it. So if I go into, say, something like Keynote and just get rid, let me turn on my little mousy thing and see. That should help you guys a little bit. See if that comes up. Nope, of course it doesn't. And maybe it needs to be kicked in the head, but that's okay. You can see my cursor. It's just, I have a little orange halo around it on my end. All right, let me turn that off for now. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just click drag to select those two items and get rid of them. All right, so let's say we want to create that lower third, right? Either animating from the left or from the right. You're like, well, you know, we can do that already in Ecamm. Yes, you can, but can you? How long can you hold it there for? Can you make it automated? And probably more importantly, how do you want to have it animated on the way out, right? So let's say that we wanted to create a graphic. Now you just use the shapes inside of Keynote. So for instance, I've got a little square here, right? Oh, let me show you something else real quick. Yesterday, or in the prior lesson, we did green screens, and I took a photo of what my studio looked like. Of course, I should be in the shot, but if I click and drag that into Ecamm, you can see this is what it looks like without me. So I can use this area as a reference, right? So I can actually go into the photo that I took using the photo feature, take photo inside of Ecamm, and just take a quick shot of an empty desk, or in what Bradley Vincent loves to do. And actually, I really, if you're looking for really cool tutorials, like in-depth tutorials, Bradley Vincent, I'll put a link to his courses. He's got some amazing things that he's done. And I wholly recommend his, you know, what he's got, you know, as far as, you know, we've got, you know, is he available on, or is his website available and everything? He's just got so much stuff. And Lala, yes, I am on YouTube. If you go to Basecamp, you'll see. And should go through on, should go through. I see it going through on, but it's Basecamp is the YouTube name. So anyway, we're going to go back to the graphic here. So I can use this as a reference. This is something that helps me kind of size up my graphics, right? Now I don't. Yeah, I know it's not on Jeremy Hubble. It's on Basecamp, and it's spelled. I don't know why. Yeah, it's Basecamp. Basecamp. It's not on my personal page. Okay, so if I wanted to, for instance, I can use this as an example. I could lock this graphic, right? So if I lock it, I can't do anything to it, which is what I want. I don't want to be click dragging, you know, a different one. So let's go back and create that shape again. And here we go. So now I have a reference point, right? So if I'm trying to create a lower third that doesn't interfere with my face, I could do it down here. Now, Keynote has all these cool features in it as far as filling. And that's, so let's say, for instance, you've got under fill here, I've got color fill, but I could also do gradient fill. Welcome to us on YouTube. And then you can see with the gradient fill, there is, you know, you can go ahead and adjust this if I want the angle, you know, You can also I love being, it call me crazy, but I love being able to type in angles. I don't this this is again, these are some of the features that I wish Ecamm had, but it doesn't, and that's just the way it is. But let's say I've got this this lower third here. So I've got it set up, right? And then I just want to put my name in it, and I want to have it kind of slowly fade. Now it's using that darker blue, which is right here, right? So if I click on the little wheel next to the color wheel next to the color swatch inside of Keynote, I can drag my opacity level down, right? You see this underneath, and this allows you to have something that's slightly transparent as it gets further and further out, right? And that's kind of neat, because what that allows you to do is create graphics that don't completely obstruct the view that you're, yes, these are settings that we cannot do with, you can do some of these settings with Ecamm, but the animation specifically, and of course I'm answering right now because I don't mind being distracted, but the way that this box would animate is what's unique to Keynote, and not necessarily to something that you would do on Ecamm. Some of the stuff I'm doing, I'm not going to get into like the complicated, like this lower third that I have here. I created this inside of Keynote. That was 100% in Keynote, and the animation, all that other stuff is stuff that Ecamm is currently not able to do. Okay, so I've got my element here, and let's say I usually, what I like to do first is just do my entire layout. So let's say I want a line here, so we'll do another shape, and these are some of the frustrations that I have with Apple products, is that they give you these lines that are just, okay, so there it is, and no shadow. It has a stroke. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? And then I'm going to make this more of a complementary color, right? So now I've got these two together, and then I would lay my text on top of that. So I could call this lower third text, right? And then go in and size it up. Now it's not like Ecamm in the sense that it will, if you enlarge the text box, it's not going to make the text bigger. You can use the Command plus button to increase the size of your text if you want to. And obviously I can go into my text and change the font. So I have a font that I like to use for my Basecamp. And so I'm going to actually do all caps. And I can see already that that is going to be too small. So I can resize this. So see, now I have something that exists. So if you could imagine this existing inside of Ecamm, what I've just done is not anything particularly unique to Ecamm. That said, now the animation comes in, and this is where things get fun and also a little bit tricky if you're not familiar with animating in Keynote. So for instance, we've got these two objects, right? We've got the line above and then the filler graphic underneath. And so what I'm going to do, I believe I can do this. We'll go in Format, and let's see, right, Arrange Group. There we go. So we'll go ahead and group those in. And I'm wondering, let's see, if I zoom in here, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't zoom in inside of, how about if I do this? Huh, I'll be dang. All right, well, we will just leave it as is. So anyway, I'll go back and do arrange group. So that is now a group, and now I can move it as a single object, right? And so now I go into the animate tab, which is underneath my logo right here. Let me turn off that because you can see the logo. There we go. So you can see if I go to animate, and then I can add an effect. So click on this guy, and build in is what I want to do. So I do a build in effect, right? And in this case, I want to move in like that. So you see what happens right there is that I've done something that basic little step right there is something that you can just do, and you can't do that in Ecamm. Yes, you can have it move on screen, but you notice that there's a little checkbox here that's labeled bounce. You cannot do the bounce, right? Also, you know, there are other ways to move it in. So if I wanted to do something like this, and then I go preview, I could do that. That's way distracting. Normally what I like to do when I'm doing lower thirds is to have them come in from an area that does not cover up the presenter's face, right? So if I'm imagining that my face is somewhere right in front of this light fixture, then I'm going to be, and if this is what you would do if you took a picture first, is that you'd see where your face actually is. But this is you have to kind of remember where your face is going to be in relation to that graphic. But so and then when the graphic comes in, it's not going over the face. And let's see, so we're going to go from left to right. So again, I can preview it and see what that's coming in. I don't know. Let me see let's look at see without the bounce, maybe that's better. I don't know. Also, there's other ways to do this. So for instance, I can drift, which I don't think is appropriate for this one. I could tell it to just dissolve on, which is boring. We can do that in Ecamm. We could have it drop in. We're doing move in right now. I could also do a wipe. Now a wipe's kind of nice because it does it kind of, rather than the whole graphic moving in, what it does is it actually, you know, it's like the graphic just is slowly revealed left to right. And I actually think I'm gonna go with that because I think that's a better look. And then, you know, as far as the text appearing, how that appears, I'm gonna add an effect. I'm gonna build that in. And then there's all kinds of type effects here. So for instance, let's see, keyboard. This is what I was using before, right? So you could do that if you wanted to, right? I could also, I could have this move in and that bounce. So that one's fine because the graphic is already there. So bouncing in is kind of almost like it's hitting the extent of the box and it can't keep going, if you get my meaning. So that's the cyan and the teal and orange box is kind of like an enclosing box for lower third. So let me see if I can make that. We'll have it move in, right? And you could say by object. You can also say by word. Preview that, right? So there's lots of ways to do this. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, this is a way that you can animate things. And then you have build out, right? So for instance, if I want this to go away, now in the way that it works inside of Ecamm is that when you select an object or an overlay and you show and hide it, it will naturally go out the way that it came in. But with the limited animation capabilities within Ecamm, there's only certain things you can do, which look fine in most cases. But let's say that I want this lower third graphic to slowly go down when it's finished. You know, I have it up there for 10 seconds and then it goes away, right? So let's go back in we're in Ecamm. That's how I'm doing my presentation. But let's go ahead and we'll go to build out. And then I'm gonna tell it for build out, we're gonna add an effect and we're gonna have it move out. And we don't want it moving that way. I want it moving top to bottom. And preview that. Right? I don't know if I need bounce. But if I wanted it to go away just like that, see, just goes away. And then same thing with the lower third. I can tell it to build out, add an effect, move out. I don't want it to do that. I want it to move top to bottom as well. And so now, if I preview that, okay, so what's happening right now is that Keynote is remembering how the animation was built, and it creates a build order for you automatically. Think of it as a, step-by-step approach. Do this, then do this, then do this, then do that. There is a button, and if I move myself out of the way here, you can see I just keep getting in the way of everything. All right, you see here the build order button. And I will try and figure out zoom a little bit later as far as zooming into, not zoom the app, but zooming into these things. Okay, so you can see here, I've got the group that's wiping. I've got lower third moving in. Again, these are all the ways that I built this animation, just step by step. And then lower third is set to move out. But if I click, you see if it's highlighted right now, it says start on click. I could tell it with the prior build. So I could say with build 3 and then preview that. Okay, and then there it goes. Now, obviously, that's where the bounce is going to be problematic. So maybe one of the things I could do is, let's see, how technical do I want to get? I'm already 25 minutes in, but I want to do this because I'm a stickler for this stuff. So I'm going to have the lower third start moving first, right? So now you see that, but I want that group moving right after it. And right now it says after build 3. I'm going to say with build 3, but there's a delay feature here, so I can tell it to a quarter of a second, and that's not enough. So let's go a half second. Oh, maybe we'll just go to one, not 0.1. Let's see. Of course, it's somewhere in between. So, all right, well, we're getting closer, but I'm still not a fan of. See, when the lower third part starts to move down, I want it to pull the box down, or appear as if it's pulling the box down. Yeah, like that. Let's see. I don't want that box moving that quick. There we go. All right, that seems about right. So now I've got my animation that's set to go away. And so the way that this, and let me turn off my background here. So we've got the animations here. Now you can get super complicated, and this is well beyond these little 1 hour things that I'm doing. And maybe at some point I'll host a whole class on just using Keynote, because it is very powerful, and it comes with your Mac, so there's no reason why you couldn't use it. And I think the power lies in the animation, being able to understand how animations build and then how they go out. And then we haven't even touched some of the other features that are in animation. This is just basic level stuff, but it's really, really cool to be able to do this. And then you just export this as a QuickTime movie, and then you bring that movie into Ecamm and then place it wherever you want, and then it'll animate. So you say show and it'll do it, and then hide. And it actually, if you have it set up like this with an animation, you can, for sure, you can just plug in like a 5-second delay, and then it'll move, right? So here, let's go ahead and let me turn off my background here. We don't need that anymore, so that's gone. All right, so now what I have, if I click play, okay, so it's waiting for a click. It animates. And oh, of course you can't see it here because it's full screen. Here, let me move this down a little bit. Hello. There we go. Well, you have to take my word for it. It's there. It's I don't know why it went away. Here, I could probably set it to the display. Let's see. Come on. Let's do that real quick. On the fly. Is that primary display? Yes, there it is. Okay, so you can see if I move this whole window, it should, yeah, there we go. Okay. Hey, Tots. So now what I've got is the lower third graphic. It's there, and if I hit the space bar, it goes down, right? So I'm animated both in and out, right? Do that one more time. So it's blank screen, hit the space bar, it comes across, hit it again, and then it says lower third, and then one more time, they both go away. But so let's say I go back to my build order here, and if I want to have this lower third go right after build 1, so the lower third text, right? So now what would happen is if I go here, preview, right? It's immediately right after that build. Still not a fan of the way that text comes in. You know what? This is the perfectionist coming out in me here. But let's go ahead and we're going to change this. I'm kind of partial to this whole keyboard thing. So we'll do that. There we go. So now what I'm going to do, I'll match kind of what I've got going on here, right? And I've got this guy set up inside of Final Cut, this lower third set up in Final Cut to actually have like some keyboard stroke effects too. I just haven't turned them on in Ecamm. Okay. So we've got everything's happening automatically. So now all you need to do is in Keynote, you do a file and then you export to a movie. And it says there's a bunch of settings in here, and you can I would do 1920 by 1280. And I think I'm not really sure if I don't know. I don't want to do that. Let's see what happens here. All these settings you want to leave more or less alone, but the one that you want to make sure that you're definitely doing is on the compression type. Set it to Apple ProRes 444. Okay. and then export with transparent backgrounds. You really want to use this because that is going to be what gives you the fancy blending effects, right? So if I go ahead and save that, I'll save it to my blah, blah, blah. We'll go up. Well, we'll just save it there. We'll call it. So it's generating the movie for me. And now if I go into my, let me see my images here. All right, so that worked. So let me, before I do the reveal, I just wanted to show you, I wanted to make sure that it worked. All right, so I've got my lower here, and if I drag it in, you see it comes in like that. And interesting, it's not picking up the alpha. Let's see if my background, did I do something here? Oh, I did something here. Let me bring myself back real quick. All right, I'm back. Now let's see, what did I do? In Keynote, let me see if I can view my slides here. My mouse decides to go completely crazy on me. Come on back. There we go. All right, let me go and look at my slides, my master slides here. Here, I'll bring you over so you can see where I'm at. And let's see. Let's see, where was it? View, edit slide layouts. And I think I was on title. And let's see. Oh, current fill, that's why. We want no fill. That should do it. Let's see. All right, let me explain what's going on here. So I'm using the title slide as part of, the Keynote ships with a bunch of templates, right? And when you populate the templates, it's what eventually gets displayed. You normally don't edit these slides, but right now you can see down at the bottom here it says edit slide layout and under title. So we're going to be done with that. And now let me see if Keynote's going to cooperate with me. So we'll go and export to movie again. And let's see, we will call that test lower. Hopefully that one worked. Well, let's see. We shall see. I think that, yes, it did work. Yay. Okay. Let me get out of this. All right. So that was my problem, and yet many problems. All right. So if I drag my test lower here, I'll put it in live demo mode so you can see where I'm at here. And if I drag that test lower over into my main window here and release it, it should, yep, there it goes. It comes up. So there's lower third, hangs out for a little bit, and then boom, goes out. Now, what controls that lower third animating that way is the timing inside of Keynote. So if I wanted to have a little bit of delay before it disappears, kind of like when I'm doing this one. So you see it types out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 seconds, and then it disappears, right? You can't do those kinds of timings inside of Ecamm by themselves. You can do some programming in your Stream Deck to bring up an overlay, and then after a certain amount of time, issue that command again to hide the overlay, but to do it the way I did it, where I animated it a certain way on and I animated it a different way off. Those are things that are not built in Ecamm, but Keynote makes it super simple. So I just want to go back real quick and just point out again, when you're inside of Keynote, and you might want to create your own template for this, but if you go into, let's see, where did I go? View, if I go into View and I do, let's see, Edit Slide Layouts. Okay, and right now I'm just editing the title slide here, right? So you see Edit Slide Layout. Nothing's selected inside of here, and my current fill over on this side, make sure to set that where it has a red line going through it where it says no fill. And that will give you the transparent background. And that's what you need in order to have that overlay into Ecamm and, you know, look as lovely as that. All right. So let me look through. I know I had some, yeah, Final Cut Pro and Keynote are the way to go for sure. For sure. I mean, Final Cut Pro is not free. So there is that. And Keynote is, like I was saying before you hopped on, Todd, the Keynote is technically not free. You're getting it when you buy a Mac. So the cost of entry is a Macintosh, but you know, you're not paying extra for it. And that's what's really nice, is that you can do these kind of animated effects, these animated graphics. And I think that's where the power lies in with Ecamm that you wouldn't get out of default Ecamm by itself. Ecamm does a certain set of things really, really well. I think Keynote is an excellent complementary tool. And if you want to get super snazzy, then you can go in Final Cut, take your Keynote animation, your QuickTime movie, add sounds to it, do whatever you want to it, and then bring that into Ecamm. But you can see that tiny little file is 32.5 megs. So just keep that in mind when you start working with really big files. Those are things that have to get stored in the profile, or at the very minimum, they're gonna have to be called up by Ecamm, and so they will eat into processor usage. So Doc always professes, you don't have to have whiz bang graphics and things like that. And I do agree that it's about the content. It's not necessarily about the graphics, the spinning and swirly things like that. But at the same time, when you have something like this come up and like that, it calls people's attention down here, right? And that's what you want. That's the whole purpose of it. It calls attention to it, and then it goes away, and then it clears out. All right. Yeah, full class. Bradley has done... he's done an amazing job with some of his classes on Keynote and animation in Keynote. And he actually, Lala, if you look at Ecamm's, you look at their YouTube page, if you look up Bradley Vinson, he did a 2-3 day course last year, I think. And that was great. It was very in depth. So to the point where I'm like, whoa, okay, this is a lot of info. And I think some people got lost, but at the same time, I feel like it was a really good course to get the handle of using custom graphics in Ecamm with essentially a package that you don't have to pay any extra for. So the two together, Keynote and Ecamm, and then if you want to, you add in the Final Cut Pro effects. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. Just don't go nuts. I mean, there's all kinds of animations that you can do inside of Keynote that it's a bit much. And also you have to be careful. I'll go over real quick to Keynote here. I just want to show something real quick. So we'll get out of this. But let me just, this is another thing. It'd be really nice if Keynote remembered the last font you used instead of you having to do it. This is kind of like Notepad on the Mac. It just feels like you have to, one of the reasons I think why a lot of us don't use it is the fact that because it resets to a default, and then sometimes it doesn't, and you're just like, I don't understand when the Mac is selecting to do what it's doing. Let me go back to animate here. So build in and add an effect. You can do like, let's see, some of these down here. Yeah, like this. Yeah, no. I mean, you can do it, but just because you can, Keynote for Dummies. Yeah, that could be that actually could be its own like 3-day course. But I actually don't use Keynote anymore for doing presentations, frankly, because I don't do a lot of presentations. But exactly, Tatiana, that it's if you do the presentations as a way to bolster what it is that you're talking about, that is effective. And the animation should be almost transparent to the user, right? You shouldn't necessarily be distracted by the animation. So for instance, if like that comes up, I'm gonna have to get rid of that, but if that comes up, that's it, it's gone, right? And if I've also got it set up so, like for instance, if I have a animation, like I've got a set of bullet points, right? And those bullet points are here, and I want my face to shift this way, I can use the virtual camera inside of Keynote and actually have my bullet points over here, and then the virtual camera window over here, and then use Keynote to slide things around, and you get effects that are very similar to OBS. A lot of people are jonesing for the sliding around and stuff like that, and you can do it. I mean, you can totally do it. It's I think that Ken and Glenn have opted for the features that are needed the most by the majority of users, and then everything else is kind of just superfluous fluff. And if you want to do it, there are certainly tools to do it already out there, but you don't necessarily need it to make an effective presentation. Ultimately, it's this, right? This is your moneymaker. What's coming out of your mouth, the knowledge that's up here, all those things are what's important more than anything else. So, I mean, I could have a totally black background and nothing else going on, and as long as what I'm saying is useful to the people that are watching, then it doesn't matter. I mean, I just can't, look bad, right? So, yeah, and just keep practicing. But, you can go back and look at this. What's up, Neil? You can go back and look at this and see how I did things. I think the key, though, with Keynote is the alpha, the transparency. So making sure you export with transparency gives you the ability to do all kinds of fun effects. And that also works in Final Cut too. But maybe as part of this series, I'll do a Final Cut day, but these are supposed to be about an hour long, and Final Cut is a rabbit hole within a rabbit hole within a rabbit hole. You could just go on for hours. I mean, there's plenty of content out there. As it relates to Ecamm, not so much, but as it relates to just using Final Cut in general, yeah, there's a lot of content out there. You can spend, I mean, if you spend any time in Final Cut, you know it's a very deep program. And actually Keynote is too. I still marvel at the things that I find. It's really, really cool. The effects that you can do. I remember when it first came out, man, I thought I was the bomb. I was doing these presentations that looked way better than anything PowerPoint could ever create. And they were effective. And I, held to the rules, 6 words per bullet point, and, only have a certain amount of bullet points per screen, that kind of stuff. I did all that stuff and it worked well. And I actually modeled a lot of my presentations after what Steve did when he did his presentations. It was text with graphics to support the text, and it worked out really well. And Keynote made it super easy to do. And it really wasn't until Bradley's class where I started to think, hey, yeah, you could do a lot of this stuff inside of Keynote for Ecamm. So why not? So yeah, it's been an interesting little journey, but yeah, I mean, that's all I really got to talk about today. So, I mean, if there are any particular questions I can try and answer, what might, I'm not, there's only a few of you online at the moment, I believe. Yeah. So you don't have to do a Q colon. There's not that many people unless everybody hits me at once, but, just, if you got any specific questions about Keynote or about using the Keynote animations inside of Ecamm. I know that Paul Dixon likes to have the flexibility to be able to edit animations that he creates inside of Ecamm much more easily than going into Keynote, re-exporting. And I get it. I totally get it. I don't think that there's any one particular way that's better than the other, but I will say that once you set up your templates and you've got all of your, each one of these animations can be organized into their own slide within Keynote, and then you export just that slide. So think of it as a bunch of artboards like you have in Illustrator, or, sections of an image that you might have in Photoshop. Those are, really, really cool things that Keynote does just by segregating things into slides. So I really enjoy that. I really enjoy just having that set up. And then for me, I just go in and I select the slide that I need to edit and then re-export it. I mean, you guys saw me, I screwed up on the transparency on the first go around, and how hard was it after I figured out that I needed to make that slide transparent. After that, anytime I reuse an instance of that slide, it'll use the transparent background now because I set that up in the master slide. So boom, done. It's super easy. Oh man, like lukewarm coffee. Everybody, so let's see. Neil is, what time is it for you, Neil? I should know this. I actually have that app that lets me see all my time zones, but this is what I'm, for me. Oh, well, sun's gone now. That sucks. Yeah, it's 50. Ugh. Do I think that Canva will be a good replacement for Keynote? Oh, okay. It's early for you. I didn't know if you had your gin yet. So yeah, do I think that it's going to be a replacement for Keynote? Are things in Keynote you can't use Canva for? Honestly, I think the animation capabilities inside of Keynote are super easy. Once you understand that the way that the animations are built, then it's really easy. It's like layers in Photoshop. I mean, you just kind of select the layer, and everything is from top to bottom, right? The way that it orders itself. So if you just build according to the way you think, and then you can go into that build order window and just move things around. But I think that's what I use Keynote for. And in fact, if I want to get really, really, really fancy with my vector graphics, I'll go into Illustrator first. I will pull those I'll pull the Illustrator graphics into, Keynote, and then I'll animate those graphics. I think, it seems like I'm getting out of focus here. Come on. There are, I would say that there are some settings within Keynote that Canva does not have. I'm also, to be honest with you, I am concerned about what Canva will do to apps like Affinity. And I don't know what the long-term plan is for those guys. I used Canva and I found it to be too simplistic for what I wanted to do. It's not to say that it's not a good app. It's just that for me, I think a lot bigger in terms of in terms of scale. I tend not to think at the templatized level, just because starting from scratch is just something that always had to do. So having other people's work to base mine off of feels more like a hindrance than it does a help, if that makes any sense. Let's see. All my overlays are animation templates I buy for. Yeah. Yeah. And Lala, I think you're right. I think that there's a great segment of the user community that has a understanding of Ecamm enough to where they know just what they need to know to be dangerous. And then they, if they want to do additional stuff, they get lost. And there's plenty of things. There's lots of technical aspects. And I know, like the zoom features that are built into the new Ecamm, that is a whole nother rat's nest of embedded features within embedded features that you could quickly find yourself lost, especially if you don't know Zoom at all or you don't know enough about Zoom. It can get very confusing very quickly. But as far as graphics go, Paul does a great job. And he just, it's really easy to just throw them in, edit them to your liking, and then be done with it. And I totally respect that. I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but give it your own special sauce, and nobody else has made it, and it's yours. 10:23. Okay, well, it's still early. Yeah, and just like I said, take those templates and deconstruct them. Kind of reverse engineer them and get them to break them. You can't really break them, you know what I mean? But break them apart to the point where putting them back together is going to be kind of a challenge. And then you'll start to learn, right? That's the way you learn things, by breaking things. At least that's been my experience. You learn very quickly what not to do. Try that with electricity, for instance. All right. Well, I think if there's no more questions, we are almost at an hour. And I'm gonna start doing some research. If you have any more comments, or if you have comments about things that you'd like me to talk about, I'm literally coming up with the topics the day before. Yes, yeah, exactly, Neil. So I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants, and I love doing it this way because I don't. I like to test myself to make sure that I'm not talking out of my rear end, and thank God so far I haven't been caught that way. So it, you know, you gotta you gotta push yourself a little bit. So this is as much of an exercise for me as it is for you guys watching. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Yesterday I forgot to make my Zoom presentation public, or not Zoom presentation, my YouTube presentation public. And I was wondering, I was like, where is everybody? And then I realized that nobody even knew that it existed. So I had to go in after the fact and change its status to public, and then it worked after that. Yeah, and oh yeah, good point. The Zoom and the Zoom integration is amazing, but as like Tatiana and Anna found last week, there are some things that there's some techniques that you have to put into place in order to make sure that you're sending the best quality image over, if that makes sense. And sometimes that's not always clear, and you can usually catch that stuff in tech checks, but especially if a show like what Doc is doing and what those gals are doing, sometimes you go off script, right? And you just, let's try this. Or somebody will ask a question. It's like, yeah, you can do that. And then you go and try and do it. And you're like, nobody can see your screen, or nobody can read your screen, or something like that. And there's little quirks here and there, but I think we'll all get through it. I think personally, I think one of the biggest things is people are asking this quite a bit is, what is the benefit of having, with Ecamm already having the virtual camera, what is the benefit of having Ecamm about myself? Oh my God, Tatiana, they're all in the trash. They're all in the all the mistakes are in the trash. But I'll start keeping them and have my own blooper reel at some point. But it's there are all kinds of ways to tackle these problems, and I feel like what I see happen on the forums, what I see people asking about as far as like Ecamm and Zoom, with virtual camera you could do it, and then with virtual camera through Zoom it was pretty clear cut, the delineation. Right now what's happening is that the delineation is not as clear, and so I think for a lot of people, knowing where that is, where they've stepped into Zoom, and I think the general thought is by Ken and Glenn is to have that line hidden, so to speak, so you're not really paying attention. But obviously what we've seen so far is people not understanding, for instance, the bane of so many Ecamm users' existence, audio. The way audio works in Zoom and the way audio works in Ecamm. Ecamm is kind of one of those tools that lets you just completely shoot yourself in the foot. But if you know what you're doing, it comes off looking primo, whereas Zoom has all these features built in, and they've got the noise cancellation, the echo cancellation, that kind of stuff, and those two fight each other. And there at some point somebody, looking at some of you guys, needs to come up with a really good class on a soup to nuts Zoom class, Zoom for Ecamm class. And I think personally, it's something that you could spend a week going through, because you're not only talking about Zoom, you're talking about Ecamm now too, and you're blending all those together, and what's the way to make the most effective presentations. That is a challenge, but that's what people want. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Tech checks are critical, as we've all found out at one point or another. Hey, and speaking of which, if any of you guys are doing, and I'm speaking really to the three of you that are commenting right now, if you guys need me to hop on to do a tech check and I'm around, absolutely call on me. I mean, Neil, you know how to get a hold of me. But you know, through Facebook or whatever, or if you want my contact info, I can shoot it over to you. But, you know, if you ever want to practice with somebody, feel free to call on me, because I've got time right now, but I'm starting in about a week and a half. I'm going to start teaching little kids filmmaking, and that is the summer project for me. So I won't have as much time during the day, unfortunately, but I'm always available, and I'm probably awake more during Lala's time frame than most people in the U.S. Absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome, Lala. Assuming the number of factors. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, with Zoom, this is a big one. And why, oh why must you do that to me? There we go. Okay. Oh, we got to get Tatiana's picture on the screen. There we go. All right, now we've had all three on there. Well, here we got to put Lala's picture on here, but she was from earlier. She was on Facebook, so here we'll do that. Can I put that on? There we go. I was watching Lala's kid play Switch the other day, and for those of you who don't know, my wife works at Nintendo, so we were both watching them. Well, Lala was commenting on her kid playing Paper Mario, I guess, and my wife hadn't even played it yet. We can't even get our hands on it internally within Nintendo. So we're both watching, and I'm going, wow, how many different ways can they package up Mario and sell it? And come to find out, quite a bit. And there's more to come. And I don't even know what it is, but it's amazing what they can do with a character that's 30 years old, 40 years old at this point. It's amazing. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap it. I'm gonna go have some breakfast. And is it Facebook? Can international kid participants join? I don't know. Oh yes, it is face to face. Yes, it's something that's being held. Oh, you're talking about the training. Yes, it's being held throughout the United States, but I'm running the Seattle area courses that are taking place in multiple locations throughout Seattle. So they're doing stop motion animation, they're doing live action video, and they're doing special effects video as well. So it's a really cool course. It's something for the kids to do for a week. And, you know, I love kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. And the supervisor for the entire region came up to me during training. She said, you know, I appreciate the fact that you're very artistic and you have, you know, an eye for certain things, but you have to keep in mind these are anywhere from 7 to 12-year-old, 13-year-old kids, and they're not going to look at it the same way. And I'm saying, well, I get that, but why not? Why not get them thinking now? I mean, they're old enough to understand, so why not? So, but it's like, well, you know, we gotta we got to make sure that they understand the basic concepts. And yeah. I got it. I got 5 days with the kids, I got 5 days with them, and I hope at least one of them becomes a movie maker at some point. So, all right, you guys have a great day. Thanks so much for joining, and I'm sure I'll see most of you in one Ecamm event or another. And I'll be back tomorrow, same time. And I'm still trying to figure out what that I have a lot of topics in my brain, but I will definitely be back here tomorrow morning with a new topic to discuss. All right, take care. Have a great Tuesday, everybody.